There's a woman on TikTok who's doing a social experiment where she is calling churches to ask about baby formula to see if any of them will actually help them out. And she called a mosque and they actually would help them out while none of the churches. And this doesn't surprise me as a pastor. And I talk a lot about Muslim zakat. It's one of the 5 pillars of Islam where Muslim communities and Muslims are obligated to provide charity to the community. Churches, they are not obligated. We hope that they're going to be able to be philanthropic and donate into their community. And my church has a food bank that I'm very proud of, but not every church has a discretionary fund. As a pastor, I have a discretionary fund, but also there's a scam going on right now in churches. My assistant this week got a text saying, "Hi, this is Pastor Burke, Pastor Tom. Can you send me the directory of the church?" Because what scammers do is they go through the directory of churches, they go through online directories, and they email and they scam all members of churches and they say, "Can you send me a Visa gift card? Can you send me this gift card?" That is something that happens. Churches get scammed all of the time. And so if you think the response to churches saying no to helping baby formula is to tax the churches, we spend $1 trillion a year on our military, on bombing other countries. We are right now bombing fishermen in the ocean. We spend less than 1% of our GDP, less than 1% of our budget on helping poor people, on food aid, on SNAP, on food assistance. So I don't understand why people want to tax the church when that tax money is just going to the military. Churches, the money that is donated to churches as a nonprofit or charity has already been taxed. And I understand that people want people on food assistance, people who need baby formula should get that help. But taxing the churches is not going to do that. All you're going to do is take money from churches and give it to the military and give it to the government, which is not helping poor people at all. Well, if you want to reform the tax code, that's fine. I'm all about it. But taxing churches would close small churches that actually do provide local philanthropic efforts to the community, and it would do nothing to the mega churches that you really want to actually get rid of. Churches like Joel Osteen, who doesn't do anything. These churches like Mark Driscoll. If you call those types of churches, of course they're not going to help. But if you call a small town church that well, they're going to try and do whatever they can to help you. So the answer is not taxing the churches, because then you're just taking money from churches and giving it to the military.
Pastor Thomas saying that the church is not obligated to help the poor. Then what's the church for exactly? That's what most people are trying and want to understand, right? If you're new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Now let's get to it, because literally when he was talking, this is all I had.
Don't mind me. I'm just a pastor sitting here in my robe with my chest hair out. And I just wanted to comment on this social experiment about the woman calling the churches and mosques to see if they'll donate a can of baby formula. The church is not obligated to help you, okay? Do you have some sort of church blockbuster membership card? Do you attend our weekly book clubs? No. So we are not obligated to help you, okay? Now, at my fundamental church of Jesus' Tailbone, we do not help people unless they help us. That's just how it works. And this is a scam. People are scamming the churches for baby formula. They take the baby formula and they sell it for 10 times the price on the dark web. They got people asking for gift cards. This is what's happening. And you guys want to tax the churches? If you tax the churches, I will not be able to get my Rolls Royce. And that is not what's going to happen. So, just log off and go with God. I also want to say thank you to our little keyboard warriors for Christ who continue in their religious psychosis and defend us in the comments. Thank you.
So some of you are going after a black woman on this app, saying that she ruined Pastor Thomas Burke's reputation. Baby, he did that to himself, wearing a bathrobe with his chest exposed. He sat there and said that the church was not obligated to do things for people. Someone said that that's not true. I believe it was Jesus. Jesus says you are supposed to do things for people. And he said it with his whole chest, like he was right, because he was sitting there in his bathrobe, loud and wrong, and now you want someone to blame for it because he's privated his account. Personally, I don't give a fuck. What he said was abhorrent and wrong, because the church does have an obligation to help people in the community. They do. That's why people pay their tithes. I mean, what else is the church for? To build buildings and make everybody feel better about themselves and pay the pastor's salary?
Christians and churches are responding after a woman went viral for calling churches asking for baby formula for her starving baby, and most of them turned her down. And what some of them are saying is absolutely wild. One church said what that woman is doing is evil and even compared it to witchcraft. He said this woman is a liar, she is indulging in trickery, she has the spirit of a witch, and if she comes near our church, she will be dealt with swiftly. This church, who also turned her down over the phone, said if a mother in need was at the doors of our church, raise your hand if you would help her. And when a majority of the people raised their hands, he said that's the only social experiment that I need. And this pastor of another church who also turned her down said that we are not obligated to help in a situation like this, and the only reason the mosque did is because they're obligated to by their faith. He said they get hundreds of scam calls and people wanting money, and they can't prove that she's actually in need. Let me know what you guys think about this whole situation, and as always, I'll keep you guys updated.
Pastor Thomas Burke came on here and said that the church is not obligated to help you out in your time of need. And they have shown us this multiple times. Like when there was a hurricane and Joel Osteen did not open up his mega church in Texas. Now that people are starving, the church has nothing to give them, nothing.
Churches get scammed all of the time. They email and they scam all members of churches and they say, can you send me a Visa gift card? Can you send me this gift card?
Hey, Tommy, quick question. Did she ask you for a Visa gift card? Did she ask anybody for money or gift cards of any kind? Did she ask for a directory of the church members? No. What she asked for, because I watched the videos, was one small can of baby formula. She said, I don't need any money. Could you just grab me a can of baby formula, a small one, and I will come get it? And y'all are saying no. And it's being caught on camera and you can't deny it. So now you got to come up with a reason why you don't want to help people. Also, quick question. What's with all the chest hair? Like you had to leave your robe all open showing a tattoo and chest hair, like grinder.
So I just watched a pastor's response to the video of the lady who is doing the Lord's work and calling around all of these cosplaying Christian churches and exposing them for who they really are by basically performing a social experiment to see if they will feed a newborn. And this is a pastor who I would say probably is more along the lines of a progressive sort of pastor. But you know, the thing about performative progressivism is that people really do show who they really are when it comes to how they are going to be impacted by something. And essentially what he said was that the churches are responding the way in which they are responding because they get scammed all the time. Well, vulnerable people get scammed by churches all the time. Vulnerable people get used, their testimonies, their stories, all of that stuff gets used by churches to help promote their mission work and get tithes in. But you know what? You know who doesn't receive any sort of funding or pay for getting up there and talking about how they went through a journey of sobriety and all of those things and how the church helped them? You know who doesn't receive a dime of that money? That person who's standing up there in their own vulnerability, sharing their story. And they're the person that could probably use it the most. And then he says that the answer shouldn't be to tax churches, because churches, the tax dollars that they would contribute would then go to the military. And the military does war things. I mean, I about spit out my coffee because I'm sitting here listening to this guy and I'm like, are you fucking serious? Like, yeah, no shit. But first of all, our tax dollars do not go to the military. What they go to is contractors. They go to contractors who, frankly, use and abuse the system to balloon up a DoD budget that is insane, but the same military, the folks that serve live in rundown housing, all right? The bases are awful. Housing on bases is shit. I have friends whose children have lead poisoning because of the fact they live on military bases and how shitty military base housing is. So it doesn't go to the military. It goes to the contractors. So that's point one. Second of all, like, yeah, no shit, like nobody else, we don't want our tax dollars going to funding that shit either. That is another TikTok for another day, because I used to be a former Department of Defense federal contractor, and my work in that industry led me to have a total career shift and become a social worker. So the truth of the matter, the truth that, Pastor Daddy, that you don't want to hear, is that churches have no problem taking money from the vulnerable, but when the vulnerable come calling, they close their doors. And the reason you don't want to hear that is because of something called moral injury. Because you think that you can wrap this in some weird little moral God complex and say, look at us, our church has a food pantry. No, 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 no. The real issue is, why are you all, as Christian leaders, not holding each other accountable? And just because you don't like how the truth sounds because you sound like the bad guy, it doesn't make it less true.
Reverend Thomas Burke has been taken into custody for investigation after repeatedly rejecting appeals for poverty relief over the past year. Burke claimed these appeals constituted fraudulent schemes. Investigations reveal he maintained close ties with affluent donors, hosting multiple closed-door events for high-net-worth contributors. During an internal meeting, he stated, "Church resources should serve the kingdom of God, not address societal poverty." A woman who sought assistance from the church described, "I never imagined a church would treat a mother in desperate need this way." Burke frequently referenced his overseas experiences in internal discussions, advocating that resources be allocated to worthy individuals. His actions are not an isolated incident. He established a system for screening those seeking assistance, instructing his secretary to determine whether to grant an audience based on economic background. This practice of categorizing people by value led to many genuinely needy families being turned away. Church insiders indicate that Burke has been suspended from his duties, with the final investigation results to be announced as soon as possible.
Now, the truth is, what they've all tried to show us is that in the church is a give or take. They don't want to help people. It's a give and take, and I think it has exposed a lot about the churches that we nowadays go to. These pastors get rich, they drive Bentleys, they have homes, they have lands and rentals somewhere, but they find it so hard to help people. Why should it be important that someone comes from your church for you to actually help them? And sure, that means the give or take. You give me tithe, and the day that you have a problem, I'm going to send help to you. What about what happened to feeding the poor, helping the widows, as you're always told in the Bible to do so? Some pastors are hypocrites. For real, are hypocrites. Leave now, Pastor Thomas. Let's talk about Pastor Raymond calling Natalie a witch and saying that if she's ever found next to the church, she'll be treated swiftly. But it makes no sense at all. Just because she called to expose the truth about your church, and just because you refused to give her or even make some calls to get her a small can of baby formula, now she's a witch because she exposed the kind of people are in your church and the kind of pastor that is in there. Personally, I wouldn't blame the customer service, the people that are actually picking the phone there, but the organization of the church itself. What do you mean, just a small can? For someone to ask for a small can of baby formula, now you have the audacity and the ordain to call her a witch just because she exposed you. These churches get tithe, they get offering fast fruits and Thanksgiving. there's a lot of offering that's always offered in a church, but the church can't afford a can of baby formula. Doesn't make any sense. The pastor drives Bentley but can't buy a needy mother. It's not important that she was faking it, but I think she just opened a lot of Christians' eyes to see the kind of church that they are actually in. Because you'll give and they say they're going to feed the poor, the needy, the widows and orphans. This woman was needy. Doesn't matter if it was a fake or real. She was needy, and before she could have posted, you couldn't have known it was a fake thing. But you decided to not help, and you come out here trying to justify that action. It's really not fair, and it actually shows us the kind of people that are in the church and the kind of hearts that those people actually have. You think that churches are being scammed? Like, let me say almost 99% of people have been scammed before. Someone have been scammed in some kind of way, but that didn't stop them from doing what they were doing or what they actually wanted to do. It never stopped any of them. So why is it that you being scammed would stop you to help a needy mother? You can clearly hear she is needy. Yeah, you can clearly hear the baby crying in the background, but you still refuse and ask her, are you from our church? And if it's no, you can't help her, it doesn't make any sense at all. And actually, personally, I would recommend that if they're not helping people, then they really need to be taxed. Yeah, they really need to be taxed, because there's no way you'll say like a pastor, you as a pastor, that the church is not obligated to help people. Doesn't make any sense at all. And now the pastor got cancelled. Yeah, we'll cancel people. People have gotten a lot of reaction here and there. Yeah, and one of the pastors got arrested because it makes no sense at all that you can't help someone needy because you've been scammed before. Everyone have been scammed. It's not the first time we are hearing about scammers. No, people have been scammed, but they still help. What about the other churches that actually offered to help? What about those churches? They've been scammed before, but that never stopped them from helping people who are in need. All I would say is that right now, I think we've all seen the kind of hearts that are in the church. And we know that despite the bad church, there are good churches, because right now most of the people have opened churches for business. All they do is go out there on Sunday and start preaching on how and preaching and shouting on the people in the church because they're not giving out tithes. They're not giving enough offerings. Yeah. Well, all the church does is giving and taking. I'm not even quite sure if those churches actually help the needy. I think they're just saying it. Yeah, I think they're just saying it because it doesn't make sense. You're going to help someone in an orphanage or something, but this one needy woman that just needs a small can of baby formula, like gathering $3 or $5 just to give this woman a can of baby formula. The kid is crying, she has no food to give the baby, and all says that she has to be a member of the church. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah. Tell me in the comments, what do you think about this? Was it a good gesture or a bad gesture? And what do you actually think about the churches that we are in today? Yes, and about what the pastor said, that the church is not obligated to help people. Tell me what you think. Okay, well, let me ask. Tell me, what are the churches for exactly? Send me a comment, and let us have a discussion about this. If don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Let me see you on the next one.